class without a pick. So,
That's killer. Chris, that was awesome.
well, thank you.
Guys, we're here with Chris Delis, who's been playing in a Jimmy Buffett band and has been a professional musician for years upon years. So my question to you, Chris, is what got you into this?
Well, when I was in school, home ec was filled, so I decided to go for the guitar course.
Okay.
Here I am now.
Yeah.
I guess for me, being kind of an old timer at this point, my musical renaissance was with the Beatles. So that kind of got me on the guitar kick. So I started taking lessons, and then Jimi Hendrix happened, and the Yardbirds, and Eric Clapton, and Jeff Beck, and all that sort of thing. And then I was kind of a small guy, so when all my friends were out playing football and basketball and all that kind of stuff, I was at home just playing the guitar.
Shredding.
And that's kind of how it started. You just and when you're younger, because I meet people that are older now that want to take up an instrument, which it's never too late. But I think as you get older, as we all know, it's a lot harder to devote the amount of time necessary. To play. There's just only so many hours in a day when you work 8 hours a day. And
absolutely.
Whatever.
Sure.
It's kind of hard to come home and, spend hours practicing like, we did. And our illustrious videographer did. So.
Well, you find though, as you're learning, and it's a kind of thing that you've got to put something into it to get out of it, as far as an instrument, not like this, like you see all these new things that are coming out that are like your Guitar Hero, and these kind of get playing quick schemes, you know what I mean? As far as how do you feel about that? What's your opinion actually about that, as opposed to really, what you put into it, you got out of it, and it's obvious by the way you're playing.
I think, well, from what I understand about Guitar Hero is that actual guitarists are not very good at it.
Can't play it. Yeah,
it's definitely a game. I think it's kind of nice that it gets people into music on that level, but I think kind of what's happened in recent years is that we've become this now society. Everything's instantaneous, where you hit a little stroke on your keyboard and a guy in New Zealand gets it a moment later. That didn't exist when I was a kid. So people kind of want to do things much quicker. They don't, as I did when I was a kid and first started playing. I remember like trying to learn something, to play something. It was, I just wanted to play it right then and there, and it was very difficult. So I think that's where that sort of comes from. People just think there's some, like you can take a pill and instantaneously be really good at something. But unfortunately, with a lot of stuff, you can't. You
have to work
Michael Jordan didn't get to be that good by playing it part-time.
Exactly.
He spent an awful lot of time to become that.
Yeah.
And I think that's true with just about anything.
Yeah. It's kind of like what you put into it, you'll get out of it.
Right. But, I asked a friend of mine who was with a major band back in the 80s one time about music, and I said, why do you keep doing this? He said, music is something that kind of chooses you.
Yeah.
He said, you don't choose it.
I was listening to you before. You're all different styles of music, so you're a well-rounded musician. I can just see you in a studio situation and say, okay, this is going to be a country tune. This is going to be a jazz tune. Let's try this, and you break it and do that. You just go into that mode thinking it.
Well, I started out, like a lot of people from my era, as pretty much a blues-based rock player, I guess you would call it. And somewhere down along the line, it's like, playing in cover bands and whatnot. You'd start doing different kinds of music. Say ZZ Top, things like that. But then you have like bands like Chicago, so you kind of need a little different vocabulary to do that. And then pop music, if you're playing like the top 40 stuff, like when I was younger, doing that kind of stuff, you kind of had to be exposed to that. And then just kind of my approach for playing, some guys are really good at sitting down and with the record, just learning everything note per note. Nowadays, it's so great because you can go on YouTube and there'll be a guy giving you the lesson for free. And showing you how to play stuff. But for me, it was kind of always more about listening to music and kind of deciding what I wanted to take away from it, not necessarily playing those exact notes, but getting into the feel of it. So I find if you kind of understand the feel, the concept behind the music, and
where it's going,
and can feel that sort of like, let's say like with country music or jazz or rock or classical, whatever, then it's a lot easier to relate to your instrument as opposed to just like, well, these are the notes, but if you don't understand the music part of it,
Right.
you're not going to play it that convincingly. You know?
Right.
And then when I started working on Broadway shows a number of years ago, you're really forced to play in those different idioms.
Yeah.
So you really have to be able to do it convincingly. Otherwise, you're probably not going to get asked back. So.
Yeah, so you got to be on top of your game, so to speak, and a good reader, I'm sure, right?
It does help to read. I was really a horrible reader when I started out. I mean, a much better reader now, and have worked on it a lot. I think reading is very, very important. As a guitarist, what's bad about reading is that you're not in a situation where you get presented with written music all the time. I mean, like, if you grew up as a horn player,
Right.
played in band in school or whatever, you were always given music, and if you
chart or
studied
something
music
like
in
that.
school, you would do that. But most of the work that I got over the years is just, you would get a gig as a guitar player, and it's just, learn these songs. There were no charts. I never got exposed to charts till kind of doing that musical theater stuff, and nowadays, some of the stuff in studios, every now and then, you run into a guy, an arranger or whatnot, who will actually give you a chart.
Okay.
I mean, I did some sessions a couple months back out here locally, and the guy was a jazz pianist, and the other guy I was working with was a classical violinist, and they actually wrote out parts.
Okay.
So I had to be able to do
So
that.
you had to stick to the format where normally you kind of ad-lib it. And
Well,
move in different
sometimes
situations.
they'll ask you, to do something. They might just have a real basic chart and want you to just play a rhythm part, or if they ask you to do a solo, sometimes it's a line, where they're going to ask you to
Right
play
now.
a specific thing. So it does help to know how to do that.
Gotcha. Do you feel, Chris, that when someone's learning or kids or I guess anybody's starting, how important do you feel it is for them to get that foundation?
I think it is nice to get off to a good start, and learn things the proper way if possible. But,
Okay.
the reality is you want the kid to have the interest first. If the interest goes beyond those first couple years and he really gets serious, all that other stuff will fall into place. He'll eventually want to find out, why all this other stuff matters.
Right.
And he'll eventually get there. So I don't think you want to, especially with a kid, you want to make them sit at the piano or guitar and practice for 45 minutes a day and hit them
it's just
over the head
torture
with a ruler if they don't
if
do
they're
it,
not
because
into it,
you're
yeah.
never going to get anywhere. You're
No.
going to get good at something because you want to do it.
Because you want to, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and I think that's the important thing. And
Yeah.
I think with parents sometimes they're well intentioned, but they're kind of misinformed, unless
Right.
maybe they've played an instrument.
Yeah, then no.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, and of course, which I need guys like you, which make this world, give people a hope that want to play to really learn and say,
Right.
wow, it's an incentive, because you really put your work into it and learn it. Would you say also, it's important that the teachers got to make it fun for the kids to play too as well?
Oh, by all means, yeah.
That's the key, pretty big too, to keep it alive and keep it going.
Yeah, I think teaching is an important skill. Some people have the gift of teaching, some people don't. But a good teacher will definitely be able to have a relationship
Right.
with the student, make it fun for them, and make them want to practice.
Right,
I think
right,
that's
get it
the
across.
thing, and
Yeah.
make it not feel like practicing. Practice sounds so.
Yeah. No, you got to do. Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
like I got to do it. I got to. So you kind of don't want to have to.
Right, to do that.
You kind of
wanna
want to
make it-
just want to play the.
where they
play the
want
thing.
to play. Yeah, no doubt about
And I
it.
think, if you have songs that you learn it, you can. But obviously, it takes a moment to get even to that. Just when you first play the guitar, you just have to learn the different chord shapes. And,
Right.
and those first position shapes are actually the hardest.
Is it really? Oh, I
Yeah,
didn't
because
know
if you
that.
play a bar chord, you can just learn that one shape and play it everywhere.
Right.
But if you play a D chord, now you got to learn a C chord. Now you got to learn a B7th chord. It's like they're all different
Yeah,
shapes.
you learn
so
all
they're
the
actually
difference.
more difficult, even though they seem like the baby chords. So yeah, in that regard, you kind of want to get to that point where at least they can learn the chords in different shapes,
Right.
and then they can play a song.
Right, and get things going with that. Okay, Chris. Well, listen, I really want to thank you for coming to Schmeeds Music here.
Well, it was very
And
nice to
guys,
be here and enjoy your store.
If you guys get a chance, go check out the band that's called Parrot Beach, and he'll be playing all over. And that's it. That's all we can say. Bye for now. I'd like to thank Chris Delis for coming out and hanging out with us and giving us his input on the music industry and what he feels we have to do to be moving forward and to keep the music alive. Thanks, Chris. Really put an effort in to learn an instrument. It's so important. Thanks for stopping in to Encore Chat. I'm Pete Schmeeds, that owns a small little store called Schmeeds Music, 831 Route 10 East in the Pine Plaza Shopping Center in Whippany, New Jersey. Thanks, guys, and stay in touch to see more videos to come.